Hi everyone, today I'm going to create a character using the Jazza's Artygames app. It's created by Jazza and his amazing team. You can check him out on YouTube. He's got a lot of great videos and has a lot of fun. I use this app when I get stuck on ideas of what to draw. So for this prompt, I got a potions master that can't stop dancing and has a mechanical left arm. I decided to draw the character as having the mechanical arm on his left, not my left. Starting out with a basic form, a body shape, more like a bean. I wanted to have a lot of fun with this character, not just a static, boring shape for a body. I started out with adding limbs, just with the insert cylinder shape, and then a head with the insert sphere brush. Posing the head and then using Dynamesh to attach it to the main body. I posed the character in a non-symmetrical shape right from the start. This created a bit of a more challenge throughout the design process, as I wasn't able to just use symmetry when I wanted to. Using the lasso masking tool, I can easily mask off areas that I want to move apart from the rest of the mesh, working on the arms and then the legs, rotating them into more of an interesting pose. For some basic facial features, I still had a symmetrical head shape, so I shaped this into what I thought would be a basic head form. I didn't want to go into too much detail, as I wanted to make this look more cartoony than realistic. Adding the nose, some eye sockets, ears, and a mouth. If you're using the lasso masking tool, remember that it will select anything on the opposite side, so you have to deselect the masked area afterwards. For the eyes, I just used a basic sphere shape. At this point, I also changed my character color, as I find it a little easier to work with a gray mesh rather than the basic red color. For the pupils, I used the circular masking tool and used the square and center options. These options are a great way to get a perfect circle. As well, it creates it from the center where your cursor is. Use extract in the subtools palette and then choose the thickness for the new mesh. Adding glasses on the mesh, there are many ways to decide on how to create extra objects. So for this process, I challenged myself to use the topology brush. This involves quite a bit of work, but when you get used to it, it'll be easy. As a beginner though, to use this brush, I did end up using a lot of cross-hatching until the mesh became something I could work with. You do have to overlap the areas in a square pattern to be able to build up the mesh. The thickness is also generated by the size of your brush when you click on the mesh that you're working on. This also doesn't create a separate subtool, so you have to duplicate the current one and then separate it from the original. I played around with the glasses for a bit until I arrived at the shape I wanted. I then created the main glass part by using the masking tools and created a separate mesh. ZBrush allows for transparency on separate objects, so I had to make sure it was separate from the rims. Later on, I went back to the rims and used the transpose method to build new blocky rims. You can mask off the mesh and then use Control and left click and you can pull out new mesh. Just fixing up the rotation of the rims so that they sit on his ears, and there we go. Hair is also a cool thing to work with in ZBrush. All you have to do is mask out an area and then use the fiber mesh palette to customize the hairstyle you want. The sky is really the limit here. You can spend hours on just hair design and then using the groom brushes to style it. If the hair doesn't render, you have to click on the fiber option in the render palette. Adding detail to the ears just a bit more by using the Damien standard brush. This brush works better when your mesh has a high subdivision level. For the mouth, I wanted to design some basic teeth. Again, I didn't want to go into detail as he's going to be more of a cartoony character, masking out an area where I thought some teeth could sit, extract the mesh, and then I used the Z modeler brush. This brush has a lot of options, so for now I'll just use the Q mesh option and then pull up on a face of the current mesh, smoothing out the new shape and using the clay polish. I find this option can achieve rigid, sharp edges quite nicely. I also use the trim dynamic brush to get a nice crisp edge. For the lab coat itself, it took a bit more work. I decided to use the topology option through creating a Z-sphere and then selecting the body. I then created a new topology for the lab coat design. This took some time, as you have to square out each part of the new mesh. Still learning about this method, but I'll get there. You can view your progress by clicking A on the keyboard and then viewing the mesh. When you're happy with it, head over to the Adaptive Skin menu and create the mesh. From there, you have a new mesh to work with, and you can pull on the mesh to reshape it. For this method, I also extracted a new mesh from the original shape to give it some thickness. I went into further detail of folds and wrinkles later on. Fixing the body and posing it, I found the body didn't look quite right, so I wanted to fix it up a bit. Masking off the areas again and using the transpose tool, I was able to make him look a bit more pleasing. Adding pencils. For every great scientist, he needed some pencils in a chest pocket. I created the pocket by extracting a basic shape from the lab coat, and then I created the pencils by just adding some basic insert cylinders. His legs didn't really look like legs, so I built this up a bit. I didn't want to add a lot of detail for his legs, as they were going to be covered up mostly by the lab coat, but I wanted to make sure he had some more defined legs, so I used the clay buildup brush and went at it. I also gave him slippers. I thought it'd be more fun than shoes or boots, so I extracted part of his foot mesh and then worked with this shape. Using the masking tools, I masked out a basic shape where the toe would be, and then created a new poly group so it would be separate from the rest of the slipper. Using the same Z modeler technique from before, I extracted upwards. This is still part of the main slipper mesh. Smoothing out the new area and then creating an indent for where his foot would go. I tend to play around with Dynamesh and Z Remesh just to get the right shape. mirror and weld for the other foot, and we're done. He did need some pants, so I used the lasso masking tool again and masked out and extracted a new mesh. Just giving the pants some flair, I used the move brush and fixed them up. For the non-mechanical hand, I just pushed out the existing body shape of the arm and dynameshed a couple times until I was happy with just a basic hand design. Then I used the clay build-up brush and resculpted the hand and the arm to make it look more appealing. I did add gloves in the end since he is a potion master. For the mechanical arm, I didn't have any existing ideas, so I used my imagination. A hook style with a grabber that can move, kinda like a thumb. For cutting parts of the mesh out, I used the Insert Cube brush, and if you click Alt on a PC, it will flip the shape inside out, and when you re-dynamesh it, it subtracts from the original shape. I did try some hard surface techniques. I used the Trim Dynamic brush, H Polish, and the Damien Standard brush. I was very happy with the results. And then I use the mirror and weld option to get the other side of the shape. squishing it a bit with the transpose tool. Since I wanted to add a mechanical arm to this character, I made a simple attachment so it could attach with his arm. Just repositioning the new mesh to his arm and adding the thumb. Lab coat wrinkles and folds I had a lot of fun with. Generally, you can probably do this a million different ways, and other programs to get folds and wrinkles, but I thought I'd challenge myself and do it in ZBrush. I used a very soft clay buildup brush setting, the Damien standard brush and the pinch brush as well. I took my time and I think it turned out not too bad. Let me know in the comments what you think. I wanted to pose the head a bit more, so that it wasn't just a static looking forward stare. Using the Transpose Master, it takes all the subtools and creates one mesh. It will keep the subtools as separate polygroups, however, so you have to be careful when using the lasso masking tools, as it will mask all the areas, not just the ones you think it will. But for now, we're just repositioning everything on the head. When you're done with that, you can go back to the Transpose Master palette and extract everything back to its subtools. Just fixing up the neck a bit. I wanted to give the potions master some flasks, cause what's more fun than dancing around with flasks in your hand? This was just a basic cylinder reshaped into a flask. I also wanted to have some liquid in the flask, so for this I just duplicated the flask and cut the top off. It's a cheater way, but I think it turned out pretty good. Repositioning the liquid so it appears to be in the flask. And here's the final piece. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this process, like, share, and subscribe for more fun, cool designs and tutorials. Bye for now.